Thank you. Here we are. Okay. I don't want this one. Perfect. So here we are. So my name is Marco Farina. I'm the founder and CEO of Logol AG. It's not a German company, it's a Swiss-based company in the German part of Switzerland.
My mistake, I apologize.
Don't worry about it. And it's a company involved in the field of digital transformation. We have different pillars from cloud infrastructure, moving to business application, and our core value is artificial intelligence. That's why I would like to share with you some information and some idea related to artificial intelligence, applied obviously to Dynamics 365. And I'm also a Microsoft MVP on business applications since 2017. And I like very well Agile. That's why I hold this certification like CSP and CSM and other stuff. And I'm also the founder with Giorgio Garcia of XRM.net. It is a European community. We have articles related to Dynamics 365 in general, with a specific focus on sales. Unfortunately, I have to stay perfectly into the time. It means that in Swiss time 9:15 I have to leave. But for any question, you can write me email to my email address, that is marco.farina@logol.com, and you can reach me also on Twitter. My account is Farina Marco. Okay. So first of all, I think that it's really important to understand what is artificial intelligence. For sure, I can't go deep inside of this field, but I would like to share with you some small insight related to artificial intelligence. Why we started to speak about artificial intelligence in Dynamics 365 in the last years? Because artificial intelligence is an old field. You know, in 1980, we were speaking about artificial intelligence, but now we are able to use artificial intelligence effectively in all our projects. And they are some of the results of artificial intelligence in the last years, where artificial intelligence won against a human in some games, like, for example, OpenAI, and in Go is a very, very hard game where you have a lot of combination. And in poker as well, in the last years, artificial intelligence won again the man. It means that in some way, now artificial intelligence is ready for our business market. Okay, but as I said before, I can't speak about artificial intelligence in this session because we have no time, but I would like just to share with you some information in order to understand where we are in this session, because I like to compare artificial intelligence to Matryoshka, that is this Russian doll. You know, there is a huge doll outside, and then inside there are smaller dolls. And so inside artificial intelligence, we have machine learning. And inside the machine learning, we have neural networks. Inside neural networks, we have deep learning. Is a way where we can teach deep neural networks. And in this case, we are speaking about GAN. It means Generative Adversarial Neural Network. Okay. In some way, we have two different neural networks that are fighting together in order to reach a result. Okay, I don't want to go deep. You can understand during the presentation what I would like to share with you. The most important part when we are speaking about artificial intelligence are just three concepts. The first one is we need data. Obviously, why in the last year artificial intelligence go everywhere inside the market? Because in the last year we generate a lot of data, and in some way we need a model in order to find a solution to learn the solution. It's really important to understand, because sometimes you think that we need a model in order to solve a problem. It's not like this. We need a model in order to learn the solution. When we are speaking about artificial intelligence, we need a model in order to learn the solution, okay? And at the end, we need a training strategy in order to give the possibility to the model to work over our data, okay? So this is the three main concepts that we have to understand. And what I want to do in this session is to try to reshape our sales process, changing the human with an artificial intelligence. Obviously, it's a huge concept, so we have to stay focused on a small part, but at the end, I would like to give you some idea that you can leverage and you can extend in order to use artificial intelligence inside Dynamics 365. We have a lot of theory in this session, so I don't want to bore with you, but I think that it's really important to understand the theory in order to understand the application of our technology. Also, the technology is a little bit complicated, but as I said to you before, for any question, please don't hesitate to contact me. In order to speak about artificial intelligence in this session, we have to speak about this man. That is Carl Gustav Jung. He's a Swiss-born psychiatrist. You know, I'm an Italian guy, but I live in Switzerland. And this person started to understand that in some way, we have the possibility to create some pattern in order to map behavior of people. And the essence of Jung theory is really simple. When our minds are active and we are awake, we are alternating between taking information. This is the first part. So we are taking information from the context, and we are making decision in our internal or external world, okay? And according to these two important pillars, Jung started to define 8 different patterns in order to create cluster of behavior, okay? So, as I said before, at the base of Jung theory, we have 2 different steps. The first one is we are taking information. This stage is named perceiving, okay? And this is the process of becoming aware of things, people, and ideas. And then the second step is judging, and includes the process of coming to conclusion about what has been perceived. We can make an additional step saying that when we are in the stage of perceiving, we have 2 different approaches: sensing versus intuition. So this is the first cluster, no? Perceiving, we have sensing and intuition. Judging, when we are taking decision, we can use 2 different approaches. The first one is thinking, and the second one is feeling. Just to give you an idea, speaking about myself, I use intuition, and I prefer thinking instead of feeling. I'm a rational person, no? So I don't have a good feeling with people. I prefer to think about it. Is it clear until now? Just let me use the chat so I can see you if you have any question. Okay, here we are. Good. The next step is that this person, that is Isabel Briggs Myers, consider that the model that we are going to use is named Myers-Briggs, and the name of the model is MBTI, is a person that, starting from the Jung model, tried to create a deeper model. So in some way, after many years, she started to validate the idea and testing MBTI, finding the first application during the Second World War to help women who were entering the industrial workforce for the first time to identify the best job. Consider that probably MBTI is one of the most used models all around the world, and if you pay attention to some resume, you can find this MBTI value for an employee. Okay, and here we have the 16 Myers-Briggs type indicator. So the idea is that each personality type shows specific tendency and characteristics. As we have seen before, we have the first stage that is a source of energy. So we have extroversion versus introversion. The second one is way of gathering information. So sensing versus intuition. Okay, we are in the first, these two axes are related to getting information. Then we have the second step that is to judge. So we have two different decision making. We have thinking versus feeling and how relating to external world. So judgment versus perception. And if you create a matrix according to this value, you have the possibility to create 16 categories, and obviously we have 16 personality types. Just to give you an example, I am in this category, ENTJ. I'm extrovert. I prefer to use intuition instead of sensing. I prefer to think when I'm making decision instead of feeling, and I prefer to judge instead of perception. There is a lot of documentation related to this model in internet. You can just type MBTI inside in Google, and you can easily find documentation related to this model. And you can also try to respond to. I suggest you to use models with at least 100 questions, and you can easily understand which is your MBTI type. Okay, good. So moving on, we can easily understand that we have 16 personalities, as we have seen before. But in order to simplify our model, because at the end, in some way, we have to use this information in order to leverage AI capabilities of Dynamics 365, no? So at the end, we have to create a very easy model in order to use it. We can cluster this information in 4 temperaments: rational, idealist, artisan, and guardian, okay? So artisan, for example, we have people abstract and objective. For idealist, amber, abstract and compassionate. For artisan, concrete and adaptable. And for guardian, we have concrete and organized. Okay. So the idea is in some way to create, to use our system, that is Dynamics 365, in order to collect data. And we are going to see that the best way to collect data for this specific context is to use is to get information from email. So we are speaking about tracking in Dynamics 365. The idea is to collect email related to a specific content and to apply artificial intelligence in order to predict MBTI model of our contact. You can easily translate this model to lead. It's really easy because at the end we just need to collect email, to push email to our system, Predictor MBTI. The system will supply to us an MBTI model. Then we need an actuator, because in some way it's good that we know the MBTI type of one of our contact, but we need to perform some action in order to leverage this information, no? So we need an actuator that will be able to drive the conversation inside the chatbot in order to engage our customer, okay? In some way, when we are gonna to use this chatbot, we are getting other information from our customer because the customer, the contact, is interacting with our chatbot. So typing data is giving us some feedback that we can send back to our predictor in order to create a more accurate MBTI type. Is it clear? Okay, so how can we reach a predictor? The idea is to start from Facebook tags, okay? Because at the beginning we have not the possibility to have so many emails from our customer, but in some way, if we are speaking about a chatbot, it's very easy for us to ask to our contact to use a Facebook login in order to access to our chatbot. And when we are using Facebook login, we can easily understand which are the preferences of our contact. And starting from these preferences, we started to create a cluster of category. And the idea is to, in some way, use a distribution when we have an R square greater than 0.1 in order to consider a good predictor. Okay, just to give you an example, if you can understand that in some way into the email or into the Facebook categories, we have word as adventure, we can easily understand that we are in a cluster ENFP. Okay, so the idea is to use this table in order to understand the correlation between some words and the MBTI values. Consider that it's really important to understand. I can't explain you why, because we have not so many time, but it's really important to have an R square greater than 0.1 in order to consider it a good predictor. Okay? Sorry, I skipped it. Oh. Okay. So, the second step is to use a semantic distance method in order to create a more accurate value, so we can map the categories of Facebook into our output, the output of our predictor, using a model like an WS4J that is very useful in order to understand this information. Okay, but at the end, in our model, we started creating a transcoding table by hand, because we tried to train our model, giving the output, and we created this transcodification table by ourselves. Moving on, we have to take in consideration other ideas that during our cognitive process, we have in some way some cognitive functions that are inside this process, that are information and decisions, no? As we saw before, we are speaking about sensing and intuitive, and decision is thinking and feeling. I just want to share this information with you because it's really important to understand the distribution of all people all around the world according to this table. Just to give you an idea, people with my personality are just 1.8% of the global population. Why it's important to understand this information? Because when we are creating a model, probably we have a lot of data related to people in ISFJ or ISFJ or ESFJ. But we have a few information related to people like me, ENTJ. So the accuracy of the model needs to take in consideration the distribution of personality types across the world. And then the second step is in some way to use an actuator. Okay, now the idea is to shape the conversation of a chatbot according to this information. I mean, according to MBTI type of my contact. Okay, and we can do that. Understand, for example, that if you are speaking about an MBTI type that with J at the end, in order to motivate this kind of people, for example, to buy our product, we need to understand that we have to use right thing, because they do the right things, they rightness and ethics, and they love honesty and justice. Okay, so for each type, we are understanding what motivates this kind of people. Okay. And then we have also to use a feedback approach in order to collect information and to create a more accurate MBTI. So the idea is to group extroverted versus introverted. Why? Because it's really important. This is the most important part when you are speaking with one person, to understand if they are an extrovert or introvert. So collecting this information and pushing back this information to our actuator, we have the possibility to modify the interaction. So determine the preference with which the user interacts with the outside world to acquire information, including the chatbot. Okay, because extroverts tend to be quick, introvert tends to reflect. That's why it's really important to, when you are using a chatbot and you are speaking with an extrovert, to pass as light reading material as possible, for example, so to synthesize the information with extended content links. If you are speaking with an introvert, you frequently pass on background reading material. Do not summarize the information if the user do not have time, skip it. So we have to use different approaches with this kind of people, okay? Just to give you an example, because we have not so many time, guardians are assertive. So how can you sell to them? You have to consider that professionalism is always important, but especially so when it comes to them. Always make sure that you are prepared for a meeting with them, okay? And for the next type, for example, for the artisan, how to sell them, you can pitch a vision. So you can use a chatbot where you can show images, no? And show the vision of your product, not a specific detail. So for each type, we have designed who they are, how to spot them, and how to sell them, okay? And then we can translate this information to the chatbot. So for the idealists that are expressive, we have the same idea. So who they are, how to spot them, and how to sell them, and so on, okay? The same for rationalists and so on. What about the architecture of our model? The idea is to start from, as I said before, two main information: Facebook login and tracked email in Dynamics 365. When we have this kind of information, we can collect data, push this information inside a database that we name customer data. We can connect this customer data to AI Azure service. So in this case, we are using for some specific task Lewis, and for other part, we are using some Google model applied to Azure in order to cluster our contact and to store this information inside Dynamics 365. When this information is inside the Dynamics 365, I mean that we have an additional field in Dynamics 365 on contact entity, and this field is named MBTI. We need to store this value for each of our contacts. The next step is when we are selling our product, I mean, probably there is a chatbot on our website, or probably like in this case, we have a WhatsApp channel where the customer can ask information related to our product. The first step is please understand which is your customer, which is your contact in your Dynamics 365, read the field MBTI, and shape the conversation of the chatbot according to this value. Okay? It's really important to understand this part because all this project is split into two main stages. So the first stage is clustering stage, the second stage is consumption stage. Just to give you an idea, I don't want to spend so many time on the first stage because I think that is really close, it's really clear to you. I prefer to stay on consumption stage. Why? Because we are speaking about chatbot. But for example, you can create a different newsletter in Dynamics 365 for marketing, for example, according to MBTI value of your contact. Or you can shape a marketing campaign according to MBTI value of your contact, of your lead. But the next step in the future could be provide this information to your physical retail in order to shape a physical conversation with your customer. When we are speaking about elite retail, I mean luxury, most of the visits in your store are of the same person. So you can easily store and understand the value of your customer. And when the customer visits the next time your store, you can easily shape the conversation of your employee according to MBTI value. Is it clear? So we have not so many time in order to show you to test the theory, but the idea, just let me share my screen and not my presentation. So I would like to show, reconnect. Just a moment. Okay, here we are. Good. So we are inside our Dynamics 365 now. It's very easy. We have customized a solution in a very simple way, adding the MBTI value. So you can easily see that in this case, for example, for this contact, we have this value stored in our system. And the idea is that we have deployed on Azure Functions two different projects. The first one is able to classify our contact, reading email related to him. The second one is a model able to shape according to Lewis, to shape the conversation in WhatsApp in order to provide specific information to an MBTI value. Okay, and then at the end we have here. Just a moment, sorry. We have here our neural network able to generative adversarial neural network able to read from our email and understand the behavior, the type of our content, okay? So what about the final stage? The final stage is that we are able to do something like this. Here we are, okay. We have WhatsApp here. This is a bot. So this is not a standard channel of bot framework because you can easily use Teams, Skype for Business, or Telegram. It's a little bit complicated to use WhatsApp, but I can provide you all the information in order to understand how to do that. As you know, sometimes the framework needs a little bit of time in order to activate the services. Just let the possibility to activate. Oh, it's sleeping. What's up? Sorry, but I'm in a dev environment, so it needs sometimes 1 or 2 minutes in order to wake up. While the chatbot is okay, here we are. Good. So hi, Marco. Our standard salutation. So I can respond. This is not so Dynamics 365 oriented, but it's only to wake up our chatbot. So the first time in it's okay, great, perfect. So I can easily understand and ask some information. Sorry. Okay, you can say now it's quite easy right now because it's standard. So we are calling Dynamics 365. We are performing some query inside CDS. We are getting information. We are providing information to the chatbot. No, but for example, if I can understand how much is the oh, sorry, yeah. In this case, this is really important. We can understand later what happened now. Perfect. So what do you understand according to this conversation if we step back to our model? Let me share. If we share here, oh no. I have some issue to share my presentation. I don't know. Okay. So what do you understand? If you step back to, for example, my type, that is ENTJ, I'm a field marshal. we can understand that, just to give you an example, pass as little reading material as possible. So the conversation is very quick. And the system, when the system understood that I missed a mistake, saying datum instead datum, is very assertive in order to provide me a solution. If you try to use the same chatbot with a different person with a different approach, you can easily see that the responses are completely different. Okay, how can we do that? It's very easy inside bot framework because we have different trees about our conversation for the same pattern. Is it clear? You can easily understand that for each response, we have at least four different responses according to our MBTI type. Okay. The next idea is to use the same for newsletter. You can create 4 if you want to stay easy, but 16 if you want to go deeper, different newsletter for your customer. And then you can automatically assign the newsletter, the correct newsletter, using this information inside the MBTI model. Okay. Just let me move to, okay, here we are. Do you have any question related to this model? We have 4 minutes maximum. No? Sorry. We have Marco. No.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So what are the different applications for this? So one, I believe you mentioned, was about the sales, correct?
Yes.
How about employee recruiting? Can this model be also applied to recruitment or hiring of employees?
Yeah, this is a good question. We have a similar project using Dynamics 365 Human Resources. The old name is Dynamics 365 for Talent. When we tried to two different stages. The first one is to use a resume in order to understand the MBTI type of employees, and the other one, but it's it's hard to manage because you have sensitive data inside, to analyze conversation in teams of people inside organization in order to understand MBTI type. Okay, but at the end it's the same because the Dynamics 365 part is very easy, as you see, to implement. No, the most difficult part is our Predictor and Actuator in artificial intelligence. In this case, we are use Python in order to implement these functionalities. This is the hardest part, but you can easily translate from sales to human resources to marketing to everything, because at the end, this part is collecting text and is pushing text inside the model, and as output you have a value, no? One of these 16 types. I don't know if I've responded to your question.
No, okay, that's good. Good to know. Thanks.
Okay. If you don't have any additional question, or if you have, as I said before, you can write to me. So thank you very much, and I think that the next speaker is Marco, so I don't want to take a time to Marco. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Marco. Really appreciate it. It's not too many technical presentations where you start talking about Jungian philosophy, so that's